Yeah, all of Palisades is like completely gone.
Yeah.
Palisades, over 20,000 acres now. There's been a security breach at a military facility in Tustin, California.
They were saying it's the greatest fire that the country's ever seen, damage-wise.
So what do you think is happening? I have my theories. I want to know your thoughts, and then we'll get into like what I think is happening.
The Maverick Approach.
All right, Maverick Approach here. We have the one and only Bleach Blonde.
And my hair is not bleach blonde right
I know,
now.
I was about to say that. You're not even blonde no more. So,
I know.
What color is that?
So technically it's supposed to be like a dusty rose gold
Okay.
that goes purple first and then fades out. So as it fades, my hair will return back to blonde, supposedly.
Oh, okay. So it's gonna fade back to blonde.
Gonna fade back to blonde.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen.
It's like a toner. So it's, but I was like, I look brunette right now. So I was
Looks
like,
good.
this is gonna be funny.
I like it.
Thank you.
And it goes good with the lighting and
I made
everything
sure,
else.
you know.
And you got the whole color scheme.
I got the
down.
whole thing.
Yeah. So I just spilled. Makes you guys see that. But anyway, so a lot of stuff is going on right now. So as we know, the California fires are happening right now. Do you know anybody in California or
I have a ton of friends that are in Los Angeles. A lot of them have been relocating.
Yeah.
A ton of them are actually helping. But yeah, there's a ton of people, honestly. And I just been kind of like watching and getting updates. I've watched people's houses go up.
Yeah, all of Palisades is like completely gone.
Yeah.
Palisades, over 20,000 acres now, up by Eaton, is like Pasadena, and I'm from LA, so like I know these areas very well. Pasadena, Altadena, like Altadena is like wiped out. So it's crazy, and I think they have some of it contained now in Eaton. And it's about 10 to like 13% in Palisades, but a lot of celebrities' homes going up. Talk about that. But yeah, we are raising money, you guys. So I have a GoFundMe for all the victims. So if you guys want to donate, I'll link it below. So far we raised about like $1,000. The goal is 10,000. So make sure if you guys can, definitely donate because a lot of people need help right now. And yeah, a lot of my friends are displaced. I got family out there, whatnot. It's crazy right now because it's just people don't know what to do right now. Like have a lot of their insurance companies that either A left or B, like people are underinsured now. So you had Allstate, you had State Farm, Liberty Mutual. A lot of these backed out, which was really odd, like backed out last year. And then some of them even backed out like 4 months ago, which is crazy because I felt like,
Crazy timing.
yeah, right? Because this
Yeah.
isn't wildfire season. Like wildfire season, usually in California, is late springish and early fallish around that time. So
Yeah, and
beginning of
they
the year is
do,
crazy.
and they do things like California, depending on what part of the whole state you're in,
Yeah.
they'll actually turn off complete blocks of power so that they can do routine maintenance, right? Where they check for outage and power lines down. Because usually a lot of these wildfires happen from upticks during the windy season, and then lines go down because it's a big country, right? Big state. And when the lines go down, when there's surges, then fires usually happen, which is what
Right.
you see from this stuff. This, I don't believe is the case.
So what do you think is happening? I have my theories. I want to know your thoughts, and then we'll get into like what I think is happening.
Well, I think there's multiple things happening. I think that the fire started by some sort of means, right? In maybe one area. And as we know, there's always crazy people out there. And we've already seen the videos where people have been catching people starting more fires.
Yep.
I do believe that in instances like this, if you wanted to start another fire, I believe that people may have. But when you look at the way that the city reacted, insurance companies prior to water flows that were shut down that could have helped assist. Um, it's it kind of screams like Hawaii all over again. Maybe
Sure.
not exactly how those fires were started because there's a
Now
lot.
people are saying that they may suspect lasers allegedly, but that I think it's twofold. Like you said, like multiple things are happening. So with Lahaina, if you remember, like there was a lot of speculation about direct energy weapons and things of that nature. People were saying there's certain accounts saying, hey, we saw this before it happened, we saw whatnot. um Land grab was coming up in the conversation with, right, because that was like a lot of historic land that natives wouldn't give up. Now they're turning into a luxury smart city. So they had plans, they had a digital summit a couple months before the fires in Lahaina actually happened for a smart city. And then lo and behold, California, or Los Angeles, now they have a smart city plan that they've been planning for 2028. So people are making those parallels now where it's saying, hey, okay, this is very similar to what happened. And now we're talking about smart cities, we're talking about rebuilding. Because you got to remember, Los Angeles is a very old city. So a lot of that did need upgrading, but like the way they're going about it is like very nefarious. Like, so
Yeah, I think there's always going to be people and corporation, mostly corporation, that take advantage of things like this. I think there's multiple layers of things that are going on here. And, as individuals that are out there searching for answers, those corporations, if they do have suspect things to do with this, are going
yeah,
to do as much as they can to hide as much as they can.
yeah,
I think insurance, especially when you look at what insurance is doing, and the small amount I know about insurance is a lot of the stuff that they want to back out on, right? They want to exclude, they want to limit. Like, realistically, insurance companies want to take your money, they don't want to pay it out.
right. Of course.
So if they can do
I always
things,
say, you know what I say about insurance? Like, just a thought, like, I've always had this thought about insurance. At the end of the year, you should get that money back. If we don't like have any incidences or crashes or anything, like give us that money back. Isn't that somewhat of a scam? I think insurance is a scam.
I think it depends on what insurance you're getting, but I do agree. Like, there is insurances that you can set up for that type of what you just said, like
Mm,
get the money back, get the premiums back. That is
yeah,
not your normal general insurance that you get for your car.
yeah, yeah.
And we had talked about this before, is like
Right.
there's ways of setting up bonds and surety, certain things that if you have a certain amount of money in something, that bond is for you, and you could put money into an account yourself and insure yourself. But certain states won't allow you to do that, right?
Yeah.
So there's ways of doing what it is that you're saying. It's just made hard.
Yeah, like it again, yeah, it is case by case, state by state.
I think it's crazy to be state by state. Like, Nevada is one of the states where you can't do what I said, which is create a bond, put money into a bond. You can have a $20,000, $30,000 bond, right? And insure your car with that. They won't allow you to do that. Not in
Yeah.
this state.
That's a whole nother conversation because we were just talking about that and how the system, yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on with the fire. Realistically, I'm interested to see when you said, like, we're trying to figure out where everything stems from and where all goes. Forensics teams do need to go in to these places and start to establish and start to do research. They probably will not start doing any of that until all the fires are contained.
right. And which is not, it's still going on as we speak, as this recording is
And then
happening.
because it's such a large area, my question becomes, like, when they do those investigations, they're treated like criminal
Yeah.
cases, right? You don't get let in. I'm interested to see, because nobody's really thinking about this right now, is like, who will be allowed to enter, who will allow to be going in, and at what point will you be able to gain entry again if they do start doing these investigations, which they will,
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
because there's insurance. Everything needs to be audited.
Right, exactly. And when it comes to liability, now we're talking criminal and everything else. I'm hearing some like rumblings that even the mayor and Newsom himself They're saying that they might be charged. I don't know how that's gonna work or how that really shakes out. Probably not. But people are saying like, "Hey, you guys were negligent in how you guys handled this. There was fire hydrants that was tampered with, over 500 of them. The dam situation wasn't filled. Had so much rain when it comes to California and Los Angeles. So much rain last year, it was like record-breaking rainfall. All that went back into the ocean because they weren't capturing the water.
Which is wild because Nevada, how much percentage of our water goes to California because of their lack, but you had surplus
Yeah.
and you let it just go back.
So that screams setup, and then going to that. So when it comes to these arsons that they're finding now, like there's multiple arsons that have been arrested in various areas when it comes to um around California or Southern California. So, and this is the weird part. This is where it gets weird. So one guy had that they caught that he arrested. He had allegedly he was an immigrant, illegal immigrant from Mexico. 2, he had 5 cell phones on him. 3, he had a prepaid card from the United Nations and a blowtorch. So that screams setup to me.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? So like, okay, so you have all these things. Who is setting you up? And then they find actually a tunnel running from. They just discovered this running from, and we know there's a lot of tunnels coming from Mexico to, here, but they found a tunnel running from Mexico to El Paso, and it had ventilation, had electricity, and all this other stuff. So it's like this screams setup to me. So, and then they find other arsons around the city that I don't know why people would be starting these fires just randomly unless they're told or paid to do so. Right. So that's one thing. And if it is,
Well, nobody does anything nowadays unless they're paid to do so. Let's be
right,
real. That's everything.
I mean, just about. So I think that if if somebody has a prepaid card from the United Nations, what are we talking about here?
I didn't even know the United Nations gave out prepaid cards to anybody unless you're diplomatic status. But then also, why are you getting a prepaid card? Maybe an
It's
employee, like an employee expense. Yeah, I mean that sounds like an employee benefit.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So it's like if these arsons are starting these fires, which they said they were, there's even reports of the LAPD saying that some of these arsons are actually, they're like weather scientists, which some of their claims are wild because what they're saying is that they're studying wind patterns of when to start the fires, right? So like when there's like a gust of wind that is kicking up, certain time of day or time of the week,
Yeah.
they're studying these patterns, and then that's when they're starting the fires.
Well, they do that. They do that to usually prevent a fire from spreading, right? So if you have a controlled fire, what you usually do is you check the wind patterns and you check to see how much you're burning. And then if the gusts come in, that you would create a safe space for somebody to watch a fire from. In Burning Man, they do this. They have like a fire ring or like something that they set up. So it sounds like they're using this idea to spread a fire versus
Right.
contain it.
Exactly. So if that is true, then it's like, okay, well, people are saying it's, energy weapons or whatever else. They're alleging that. I think, my opinion, two things can be true at once, right? So if it is some type of, let's say, allegedly space laser, that's what they're saying. Okay, cool. Same thing like they're saying allegedly with Lahaina. Now, to keep these fires going, it could be the arson play, right? So, like, because fires are popping up everywhere. And again, I'm from LA. To have a fire start way over in Pasadena and Altadena, then you have a fire way up towards, where was the other one? It was over by like Santa Clarita, which is way north. Then you have Palisades. Then they had a fire way in Ventura, which is going east. And then you had like a few other, and you know what I found too, which is really weird? At the very same time, now there's an app called Watch Duty where all the fires, you can see everything, right? At the same time, all these fires are happening in California. They actually where other fires started at the same exact time in the afternoon, same day in Arizona, which is like even more weird, right? I know fires happen all the time, but to start at the same time in all these different areas, that's I'm sorry, it's just suspicious.
Especially like what you said, like we're not in a season right now where it would normally occur because it's been warm, but not like the way it is during the summer, not the way it is during the spring. Both in like Arizona, this is the mildest time of year
Right.
in Arizona.
So, I mean, okay, to chalk that up and be like, okay, well, let's say now it's fires year round. You know, skeptics will be like, oh, well, it's just warmer and then humidity is low and all this other stuff. But I've done research on how wildfires start. Again, when it comes to brush and whatnot, you have to have like really dry vegetation. And that could be chalked up to the dryness. But when it comes to actually the humidity and whatnot, it's been pretty cold. So, like, and they're saying like these winds are kicking up, what's from the Santa Anas, but I just don't see it happening at this magnitude, right? So, like, this is the worst fire that LA has ever seen. Like, the damages that they're estimating is over $100 billion.
They were saying it's the greatest fire that the country's ever seen, damage-wise.
Now, wow. See, there you go. So, like, really? So it's really not the season, and we're seeing like over 100 million in damages. Whole like cities are wiped out. Fire hydrants aren't filled. The dam isn't filled. Um I even went down the rabbit hole of like what happened even today. Like the FBI paid Ben Affleck a visit at his house in Brentwood, and they were investigating a drone collision with a super scooper uh firefighter plane from Canada that they sent over to go help with the fires. But why are they going to his house to investigate? And why is the FBI investigating a drone activity when the FAA should be investigating?
I mean, maybe they're jumping ship, like it's jumping ship, right? Like there's got to be a reason for them to have jurisdiction, right? Besides it being in the air, it's got to be related to what,
Well, they said it's a
right?
civilian drone that collided with the plane, but his house that they went to, I believe he has a house in the Palisades as well, but they went to his home in Brentwood looking for him. He wasn't home. And then again, like going down that rabbit hole of like, okay, well, why would they pay you a visit? Now, who are you connected to? J-Lo. Now, who is J-Lo connected to?
He did he.
The diddler, right? So, like, maybe he has information. This is just my opinion, but maybe he has information more than, than we think, Because, like, I mean, what? They were married twice, right? Him and J-Lo? Like, didn't they, like, separate and divorce and then they got back together?
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
To be honest with you, she's gotten married, divorced a lot. So
Right?
I don't know if I can keep track.
Yeah, I was looking it up because I remember, let's see. Because I know that J-Lo was married to...
I think they separated Mark Anthony, but she was, or Mark, right? Mark Anthony?
Mark Anthony. So, okay, she married...
And there was another guy in between.
Chris Judd back in the early 2000s, Mark Anthony, Ben Affleck. So maybe they weren't married before. It says they were married in...
I think they had like a issue where they separated for a little bit or
Right.
there was something going on.
Yeah, because she was dating A-Rod.
Yes.
So that had to be...
That was after Mark Anthony.
Right. Or was that... Okay, that was Mark.
Yeah.
Wait, when did she date... Oh, I'm trying to remember. This is a lot right here. Like she... I'm looking at her timeline of
She's
spouses.
busy.
She's a busy woman.
She's good looking,
I'm trying to figure this out. But anyways, so yeah, they got married in 2022 and then they divorced last year in 20. I guess their divorce is finalizing this year, but they separated. Now, they've spent a lot of time together. Do you think that Ben Affleck knows anything about Diddy via J-Lo?
Well, I mean, part of their separation, right? Wasn't there like talks about how this stuff started all coming out and then their separation happened?
Right.
I believe that J-Lo was dating anybody that was dating P. Diddy. They were obviously front row to what was happening. You hear it from all these women that have had like dating relationships with him, of the things that they went through. J-Lo was also at the nightclub, right? There was that gun case. So she was on a court case with him.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that when you start to hear things come out about somebody that you are with, and you find out like when they were with somebody that they allowed for some of these things to be okay,
Yeah.
and maybe there was communication,
Yeah.
that you would separate if you found out like this person's okay with this stuff. Like, I don't want to be a part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, he got out of there really quick. He was like, yeah, let me separate myself. And then we like saw all these rumors about J-Lo.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing too, is like
Here we
I've watched enough documentaries about how the music industry works with people getting together to help like catapult people's careers, right?
Yeah.
And you hear that a lot of people encountered P. Diddy to do the same thing. Did they also encounter other things as well? Absolutely. And just to talk about him as an example, but other people have also been at the center of a lot of those things. So what these things are, like, they're orchestrated.
Yeah.
And if everybody in the music industry and the movie industry is really just gives a shit about themselves, as soon as you find out something that is potentially going to ruin your career, you're going to separate yourself as fast as possible.
For sure. For sure.
So I think that, based on what we see already being released and what has been talked about, a lot of these people like Ashton Kutcher, right? Same thing. His wife completely left too, right? They separated as soon as that stuff started coming out. I think that relationship mirrored what's going on.
Yeah.
When it comes to why there's fires and where they are, and based on whose house is, and a lot of talks of tunnels and tunnels being used, then you start to go, okay, like maybe some of this stuff is connected.
For sure.
And maybe that's why. Maybe there's some sort of tunnel that they found somewhere that somebody was using. Maybe it's not just drone related. Maybe that just happens to be that happened.
So I'm glad you brought up tunnels. So did you know that Diddy lived 1 minute away from the Playboy Mansion? Now, at the Playboy Mansion, there are tunnels. There is blueprints. Shown this on my page, on IG and everything else. There's blueprints of tunnels, not only underground at the Playboy Mansion, but they lead to other celebrities' homes throughout the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
Warren Beatty's house, Michael Caine, Douglas. I believe his name is Michael Caine. The other Michael Caine, Michael Douglas, a few others. But
the Bunny Ranch.
And here's the thing. Here's where a lot of people don't know, and this is in a documentary that they released not too long ago about the Playboy Mansion. Hugh Hefner, he had a thing called Pig Night, allegedly, that all the pimps from Sunset Boulevard come up the mansion, and he'll ask the pimps, hey, how many pigs do you have? And he's like, hey, don't tell them I call them pigs or whatever. Call them in party favor, all this crazy shit, right? So that sounds like trafficking to me. I'm just saying. I mean, he built his business on, naked women and whatnot. And it was very like coming out in the 50s with that stuff. It was very like
shocking. Do you think he
shocking.
actually built his business just on that? Because when these people go to these places, if you think about why P. Diddy's in trouble, if these people are having parties like this, Maybe the business isn't actually in what's happening, it's in the documentation of what's happening.
Correct. And I feel like a lot of this stuff is a front because that is the biggest business on earth, movement of people, and it's a huge problem. So when you hear these things, you're like, oh, the Playboy Mansion had that's odd. Then Diddy's in that same neighborhood, and those tunnels go to other people's homes. 1+1.
Well, not even do they just go to homes, they also go to ports. They go to where you can bring a boat up to.
Right.
So the question now becomes, if it's not just the land, where are you bringing people in from?
Yeah.
The water. And
Right.
then if there's shipping containers, who's to say that there's not people on those as well?
In which Diddy's home in Miami was right across the way from a port.
Port.
And another fun fact too, that Epstein's right hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, she had her submarine license, and she had I believe it was, I don't know if it was, I'll look it up. It was called Terra Mar, and Terra Mar was her. Let's see, Terra Mar. I'll pull this up real quick. So Terra Mar was actually her like submarine initiative, which I thought was weird. I'm like, why do you have this? And we can go down that whole rabbit hole, but like, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Oh yeah, here it is, right here. So the Terra Mar Project was a self-described environmental nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2012 in the United States by a convicted ex-trafficker named Maxwell.
So you said nonprofit.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So they don't pay taxes. Ah.
Yeah, and that was established in September 2012. So, yeah, the Terra Mar Project was founded September 2012 at the Blue Ocean Film Festival Conservation Conference in Monterey, California. So, and focuses on 64% of the oceans that lie outside any single country's jurisdiction.
So I was just going to ask you, what do you think has harder oversight, the FFFA or like nautical, like being on the water?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, there's more water than in land, right? So, like,
And there's all the air.
that we can, I mean, we don't, obviously,
Well,
we're
because
not in the air all the time.
right, but if we go in the air, we have to have certain licenses. What kind of licenses are you required, and who do you have to go through to be able to submerge?
Crazy.
Right, so it begins to question like what has more oversight, and then based on visibility, you can hide better definitely underneath the water than you can in the air.
Sure. But yeah, going back to the tunnels and everything else, Playboy Mansion and all that. So this isn't anything new, right? And I think all this is coming about, right? When you have, you know, these, even with the attacks that happened, in New Day, and I feel like it's all connected in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, like if they're trying to hide something by keeping you distracted, what what's the bigger picture?
Yeah, I feel like, again, two things can be true at once because it could be distractions, but it also could be fulfilling something or not do. I think that could be, the basis of something bigger because, again, what happened in California now, like people are saying, like celebrities' homes and all other stuff, they're gonna find out a lot of stuff in the tunnels. But the tunnels, like, there's nothing new about LA tunnels because even back in like the 80s, there was an FBI agent, a retired FBI agent, who blew the lid on this whole scenario of finding tunnels under a preschool in Los Angeles. What happened was he brought it to trial and everything else. He blew the lid on it. And it actually became a hung jury because it was inconclusive evidence. But they left out evidence of this plastic bag, which was Disney, go figure, which was copywritten in 1988. That was found in the tunnels. Now, they said that those tunnels were sealed.
Out of that bag from XYZ date.
Right. So moving along, there is some other things that may be connected to this whole thing. And you can let me know what you think, because this is getting a little weird. So there's been a security breach at a military facility in Tustin, California. Right. So they took 3 Humvees, and I believe they recovered 2 of them already, but the armored one is still out there. Can't find it. And on those,
When did this happen?
this just happened a few days ago on the 8th, right? So while all this madness was going on, the fire started, I believe, the 7th. Now this is happening around the same time. You have these Humvees that got, confiscated or stolen, that had, 8 gun mounts. They had other military supplies. Let's pull it up. They had, what else do they have? Medical equipment, 40 pairs of binoculars, 18 bayonets. Like,
Where were they? Where was this?
this is in Tustin, California.
But was it parked or were they moving it? Or they have not told anybody about
I
the
don't know. They
details?
said that on Wednesday, January 8th, between 8 and 11:30 p.m., unknown suspects enter a storage warehouse at the Army Reserve Center in Tustin. Multiple storage lockers were discovered with locks removed and missing gear. So, and these things, I posted on this, and I've had some military people tell me that these Humvees are usually locked,
I mean, okay,
and
so
steering wheels are locked and everything else. So somebody knew what they were doing.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, you don't leave something like that with the keys in it. And not only are the keys not in it, there's multiple keys that usually have to be turned in order to turn those things on. They have to be taken out of the storage facility, which is probably not just a pulled down garage, right? There's multiple entrances. And then
Right.
you need to make 3 of them, or is it 1?
It was 3 Humvees with
3 disappear.
yeah, and then again. So I believe 2 of them have been recovered, but the armored one is still missing. It's still at large.
And
Interesting.
the armored one is the one with the guns.
Well, yeah, it did have 8 gun mounts. So I believe there was no guns or weapons
it.
taken, but
Okay.
it's a bunch of other military gear and medical equipment that they did have on there. So interesting. And meanwhile, that's going on, right? Put a pin in that. You have a Japanese Yakuza leader who just pled guilty to nuclear trafficking. Yeah, so nuclear trafficking, narcotics, and weapons charges.
Isn't there a ton of like information there about like during the last 20 years that nuclear weapons?
Correct. And they were saying those drones were actually, like, the ones that we were seeing were actually sniffer drones looking for like nuclear materials.
But they were going up and down the coast of California, right?
They were
Or
everywhere.
They were everywhere. Okay.
They were in New
But the sightings,
Jersey.
okay.
They were all around the New Jersey naval base. They were everywhere across the United States. They were in California. They were in parts of Florida. So it's like maybe they were sniffer drones. And because here again, the FAA did not investigate somebody in our airspace. They didn't blow them out of the sky. The DOJ or the DOD didn't do anything.
Because they were probably notified.
Homeland Security, none of these guys were like, these things are in our airspace. Let's see what happens. Nobody blew these things out of the sky because they're like foreign objects that we didn't know. So it's like, okay, well, you guys definitely knew something. So I don't know. So that happened. And then you have, of course, the arson suspects getting caught all around the same time. So I'm like, what is going on? Somebody's funding all this, right? So like these arsons, again, with that one guy, he had a prepaid card on him. So it really makes me think like 2 things can be true at once. I'm like, are we causing chaos? Are we doing cover-ups? what is happening? I feel like, like I said before, more is gonna come out, but all these things, it's been like the craziest year.
Well, I mean, if you think about Trump going into office,
Exactly.
what
All this
happened,
happens when
right?
Trump comes back in office.
So it's like it could be one of these things to see how he responds. These are crazy things to see how he responds. But if we think about COVID, you know, and that happening right prior to him office, crazier things, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, if there's people that have a benefit to win something out of this and they don't care about people, then casualties
right.
inevitable.
Yeah, and I really think, um, to be honest, the hammer's gonna come down, and as soon as Trump gets in office, we're gonna see a lot of people go to jail. I really believe that. He's not fucking around. He even said, he was just like, yeah, trafficking or your PDF file or anything of that nature, death penalty, done, and then anything else relating to that. So a lot of people in government going bye bye. I believe one guy actually stepped down from the DOJ. I think he was like one of the special. I'll look it up. I actually have it saved right here, but he would just resign. So maybe he knows that the hammer's coming. Um, his name is where is he at? I would say it's right. Oh yeah, here we go. Jack Smith. The special counsel. He's part of the special counsel. He just filed for his resignation of the DOJ. So they know that the hammer's coming down because why else would you just resign? So I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see a lot of arrests. What do you think?
I think so. I think we'll see a lot of arrests. I think we'll see
It's like, you go to
here's
jail.
here's the thing. I think we'll see a lot of arrests, but I think we'll also see a lot of complaints filed and see a lot of judicial process. Comes to that stuff, a lot of these people that are doing these things, higher level, know how to navigate through judicial process way they get off scot clean,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like they're still being indicted, they're still being this, they're still being that, but enough evidence or this or that to sway, blah, 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 they'll get away with something. So I think that's the unfortunate thing of a lot of this stuff that we're going to see is that as much as indictments and arresting people are a great thing, there's just the judicial process that some people are just really good at navigating. That system is corrupt. The judges are
Yeah.
corrupt. And at this federal level that we start to look at, these judges that are put into office, there's nothing removing them.
True.
So it's kind of a system that is set up to be navigated to liquidate funds and liquidate money and billable hours and potentially the goal is for laws to be enforced, but these people that break these laws, they sort of set it up for themselves in a way that they can
Right.
potentially get
So they can win. The system is set up for them. I always tell people the system is set up them, not you. Right. So again, going down the rabbit hole of like what happened when we started to get in the social security system and everything else, because rating under that is a whole nother, but this whole system on top of us that is really unconstitutional. Um, Taxes are voluntary, and they're supposed to be temporary because of the war and whatnot. Now they just stuck with us the whole time. People really don't know this stuff. When it comes to constitutional rights and everything else, and how they set up this whole system is just the whole veil. I feel like it's being lifted right, starting to wake up and see. As before, want to work 9 to 5, come home, babies, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I think until they step into the arena of the court system, that's you start to realize that we're one in deep water there, which is why most people hire themselves a lawyer. Or if you're like myself, like a pro se litigant that's trying to stay afloat in the process. And what I always tell people is like read, learn, go through, take your time, go slowly, educate yourself up as much as possible because I was just in the court last week and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
I'm filing a appeals for a court case that got dismissed because the judge is unaware of contract laws and how all of those things work out in UCC.
Mhm.
That she dismissed my case for a breach of contract. So I'm going into the appeals process, and in that process, I know when I need to file. Being pro se, went into the district's office and went to the clerks to file my paperwork. They're supposed to sign something based on the fact that I'm pro se litigant. They decided to not file. I had to wait for a supervisor. I sat there for about 3 hours as they refused to give me a supervisor. I went downstairs to get a paper to file with their administration's office because they're refusing to do their judicial duty. Went back upstairs to give them the benefit of the doubt to wait. And I just happened to run into a lawyer who himself obviously understands that they don't do what they're supposed to and was being followed around by a police officer to make sure he doesn't cause too much trouble. And he knew,
Trouble.
yeah, he knew the advisor that I was supposed to see. And he called her out by name and she was standing there. So then she had to speak with me. And I could see it in their face that they were pissed off that this guy did that. And in that process, I was still able to do my filing. But half of the things that they said that they were supposed to do and charge me for, which were filing fees, they all of a sudden didn't want to charge me for them. They didn't charge me for the filing
Yes,
fees.
they know the game, and
Yep.
they're kinda screwing themselves and not making the money,
Oh,
but
yeah. And then I was supposed to bond the case. They wouldn't take money for that. I asked them about it. I was supposed to also pay for the court appeal stuff, filing fee as well. They refused to take the money for that as well. So I got sent out the door with my paperwork still filed, but then all this judicial duty that they were supposed to do, some that benefited them
yeah,
that they didn't end up doing. And I
'cause they're
filed
too
that complaint.
stubborn and know you know the game,
Yeah.
and
So now I have to navigate now down this whole path of making sure that things are done by them. And uh, one of the things that I was asking them to do underneath where it says is their judicial duty, my duty. And this is very interesting verbiage that they use. It says, by any means necessary, I am responsible to make sure they get this paperwork together and sent off to the appeals department. Why would you use in legal terms, on legal written stuff, legal law, by any means necessary with my duty? Oh, well, based on what I experience, I see why. Because they are not going to help you.
no,
Ex-
oh, they know that once you figure things out, make it so hard and so difficult and give you the runaround and your time, you do these things so you just get tired out. Don't do it. And then that's where the real fight ends. It's equipping yourself with the knowledge, knowing how to use it, but the battle really starts where it's like they're not gonna play nice, they're not gonna play fair. But in the end, I mean, if you know your shit, you know your shit. Right? So like it's going to work out. But it's just, do you have that fight in you to go the distance?
yeah. And that's really what I've been walking through. Talk to God about this whole. It's like the end goal is not actually the goal. It's walking it out. It is making sure that I follow the steps that he's asking me to do, even if the result isn't what it is in my head. It is bringing something out into the open that is obviously clearly not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So if all that comes out of this is that people discover there's an issue that's going on or it's exposed, then by all means, that's all that happens. Because
Yeah.
this is not cool.
Yeah. And that's what's needed. Like and that's the thing, we're in the age of information, we're in the age of technology, obviously. When these things come about, people are like, "Oh, okay. I see what's going on." And disclose these things to where how the system really works and what it is, and lawyers and judges and all this other stuff, people can now receive that information. So that this is why, again, when it comes to this whole awakening, like everybody can see everything. That is very powerful. So when you're doing this, people can see that, and if you're documenting it or even sharing that knowledge, people are like, okay, this is real, this is crazy, change. Because again, like the system that they built is not for us and it's unconstitutional. So when it comes to these things, people need to know how to navigate moving forward because it literally changes your life. Access, trust, and everything. Those things and you
Or to
know,
actually have freedom. People don't realize that like some of the things that they love about being in the United States is actually not available to them based on status. And you think that it is because you're like, I'm a citizen. Well, not the way that they have it written.
right,
And it's clearly written, but the words are not the definition when I know them.
right.
Why you need to go and learn the definition based on speaking. Black's Law Dictionary is dictionary, right? Especially legal terms. But this is knowledge is
Legalese.
yeah, it's knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's a lot, but when you think about what it is that we deserve in every single person, freedom,
Yeah.
just take the time, even if it's confusing, and
Yeah.
lean on like resources like Maverick. Maverick talks about these things. I mean, he could
I
point
know a
you along the
little
way.
bit, just a little
Yeah.
bit. I'm trying to do my part, but yeah, definitely. Um, when it comes to this stuff, I've done extensive research on it, and it goes really deep. The way they set it up, it's crazy how deep they go into, even with like symbolism and wordplay and all this other stuff, and how the country was originally set up is completely different now. When it comes to like this is why like if you go back into the history book, okay, the Titanic, the reason, and there's multiple reasons that say it could have been an insurance scam or insurance play, that's one thing, but there were some very important bankers on the Titanic who actually opposed the Federal Reserve. Now the people who weren't on that boat, supposed to be, was the bankers who were with the Federal Reserve, Morgan and all these other guys. Even JP Morgan had his luggage on there and he opted out. Him and his wife left the luggage on the Titanic and everything else. And just like the night before was like, okay, I'm not. He was supposed to be on that boat. And then the boat sank. And had those billionaires who opposed the Federal Reserve. After that, then lo and behold, we have to all of a sudden pay taxes and all this other stuff. Jekyll Island, do your research on that. But then we have this whole new system where we're paying taxes to a private entity that's not part of the US government. There's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve, and there's no reserves. Like they literally are a foreign entity owned by other banks. How is this legal? And we're paying them? And if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail?
Well, it's legal because we all agree. Well, and do we really agree? Not
Not
really.
really.
But if we go and we get a credit card and we sign and we say we're this, we say we're that, there's an acceptance. But that doesn't necessarily mean we agree,
Right.
which is what everybody has to realize is that with all these contracts, as soon as you realize that there's not consideration, equal consideration, both ends, and then if there's fraud, which is them concealing and hiding something, that contract becomes void. Will you have to go through the process to cancel out the contract? Absolutely. But from the moment that you are in an agreement and understanding that the contract is void, it is void.
Because it's just recognizing. Put them on notice. They after that, because everything's notice. It's not, you know, this is where they get us, where it's privileges versus rights. Right. So like they've turned this whole system into a privilege. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be our constitutional right. We are a constitutional republic. So they've turned this whole thing upside down to where, oh, you have to get a license to drive. Oh, you have to get a license to get married. Oh, you have to get a license to bear arms. Even its second constitution, the right to bear arms, but I have to get a license for it. So when did we get from here to here? Right? So like they put all these state laws in front of us and everything else because what people don't know is that every state is its own sovereign nation that has a contract with the government, the US government, or States Inc. Right? So like when it comes to that, so this is where it gets layered. State laws versus federal and everything else. And why we have different, the goalpost is always moving. So it's like, oh, okay, so that's where they layered it. That's where they put the secret sauce in. So when it comes to all this stuff, it's like, wait, hold on. We're supposed to be going by the Constitution. This is what I tell people to do. If you have a passport, look on your passport and then look at the language and it says US citizens slash national. This is on everybody's passport. Nobody even reads this or even gets it. What's a national? Well, a US national actually goes by the Constitution. So when you opted in to be, or when your parents opted you in the whole system when they signed that birth certificate, you're actually opting in to be a US citizen, which doesn't have rights. They have privileges. This is why they can take privileges away, i.e., driver's license and everything else, guns, whatever else. So how can they take something that is supposed to be God given or in the Constitution, how they originally wrote it? This is how they trick bag you into stuff. Like, oh, I'm a citizen. I'm supposed to, no, your passports, you're supposed to be an actual national who has rights. A lot of people don't know that. That's that whole veil that they pull over your eye. So, and it gets layered. It gets crazy. And that's just scratching the surface. But like, because
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, and what's crazy when you have these conversations with people, like, where do you blah, blah. I'm like, it's in the Constitution, it's in the UCC, it's all these places that you could go and look up. But it's just, it gets confusing
yeah,
because
it's very
you have to
confusing.
read the definitions because what they're writing is a legal definition,
Yeah.
not the definition of what me and you know. Person is not a person.
Yeah.
Individual is not an individual, right? So you have to start to look through the things you read, look up the legal definitions, and check multiple dictionaries,
Yeah.
right? Like Black's Law
Black's
comes
Law,
out.
that's the sauce.
Yeah, they usually say a lot of other people that I speak to say 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. I forget which one it is. They're the best ones to look into because as they get later in editions, they try to start to remove definitions, change things. But every printed version of Black's Law is actually still solid and true.
Yeah.
They can't just change a definition. They
Yeah.
can in the legal printing, but if you claim to say this is the definition that was sent in this thing, they have to go by that.
Right. And it's a whole language called legalese that is literally another language. It's not like
No.
this arbitrary thing. No, it's a whole language that they base their laws on. So like how you set up a corporation. Why is it called a corp, like a corpse? Because dead entities.
Don't have rights.
So that's the thing. So like when you have these things like, okay, you as the flesh and blood Shannon, completely separate person from what's on paper in all caps with your name.
Right. Christian appellation.
Yeah, that's your dead entities. You're assuming the liability once you have that signature. You're assuming the liability for the common is your dead entity. Like even mortgages. Like you look at the root word of mortgage, it's a dead pledge. That's literally what it is. So they're basing everything being dead, right? So like going into um the legalese and system, like they use the law of water, like admiralty maritime law. They're basing their laws off of water, which is, they say liquid, uh the bank or riverbank. So they're basing all these things off of that, right? So this is why when they're saying, hey, when you step into a courtroom, you touch the bar, that sandbar, you're going into the deep ocean. Now you're dead. Now you need a lawyer to talk for you because dead people don't talk. And then like, because you can learn all this, like, you know who really breaks it down? Like Jordan Maxwell, rest in peace. He's a GOAT. Like all this stuff, he was like waking people up to where like, damn, this is how they really flipped it on us. So when you assume that liability, like I always tell people, like when you like look at your birth certificate and you have your social security on it, actually a bank account, like 9 numbers. What's that? Has 9 numbers? Your bank account. So and they're trading on your name and all this stuff. It's crazy, and it's just like,
And they never asked your permission to do any of this. This is the crazier,
yeah,
right? They never asked for permission. But as soon as you started signing up for these licenses, getting your W-2 form,
credit
filling out all these things,
cards and
anytime you said that you were a United States citizen, you checked that box. You know what you said to? Yes to every single
yes,
box.
correct,
Because that's what they're waiting for. And which is why, like with these things from when you're kids, a lot of these things gone back through and canceled out. And like we said, putting them on notice because you're like, hey, I didn't know that I blank and this.
right.
And then I didn't know that when I said that I was a United States citizen, that I was
You're opting
saying it
in,
wrong,
yeah,
right? Because I'm a citizen of the United States,
right,
not a United States citizen.
right,
They're two different things. One's a national,
correct.
but
This is why, like, moving along to, have you heard of the quademic? This is a new thing.
you mean like quad means four?
4.
Because I'm good at math like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So there's 4 things going on at the same time?
4 things going on at the same time. And if you go back to 2020 and how we're talking about, rights and laws and how they mandated masks, which is not part of the Constitution, you're breaking our constitutional rights. Now there's a quademic with COVID, RSV,
Oh, yeah.
the norovirus, and then what was the 4th one?
Bird flu?
The
Thing?
bird flu.
Okay.
All these all at once. So they're saying that now, in the same week or the same 2 weeks that all this crazy stuff has been happening, now we have a quademic upon us.
So they're trying to laws or
That's what it seems like, because now they're saying like certain hospitals are mandating masks right now, and you can't mandate a mask. Can't do. So they're saying like that. This is why a lot of people have lawsuits right now, because a lot of people lost their jobs when they weren't
they want to take the stab.
getting the jab or getting a mask or whatever. But they're like, well, you're violation of my constitutional rights. So once again, playbook. Trump's back in office. Now we have a quademic. So what are we talking about? Like, we're doing this again when he gets in office. So
Well, I think when it comes down to somebody's response, right? If we think about what happened prior to, somebody's not able to do certain things that they want to pay attention to, like Trump's wants to concentrate on finding out where those kids have gone. If you give him all these other curveballs and all deal
can't
with,
focus
he
on it.
can't focus on the
Yeah.
thing. I will say that I've seen this guy. He's a little crazy, in a certain sense. I think he can focus on.
Yeah.
And I think that's because he's built a good department, and you know, people that have companies understand that it takes more than one person. So they could, if this is part of throwing somebody a curveball, I don't think that it's gonna work.
Yeah, I think he has a better team now, even though I'm still like 50-50 on Elon and everybody else that he has on his team. I don't know. I got to still
Elon's
see.
like a frat boy friend that's like got really excited that like his president now.
Yeah.
And he's just like
He's hopping
showing up
around.
extra places.
Yeah.
But also, to be honest, like there's nothing better than having a friend that is in tech and in automotive and also in aerospace.
And the richest man on earth.
Right? So like, if you want to get something funded, you could actually just turn to Elon and be like, Elon, I need the billion.
Yeah,
And he's like, okay, cool, dude.
Yeah, right. I need 50 billion. Can you like loan me that at a 2% interest rate? Oh yeah, I got you.
But like,
Cool.
let's be real. Like, to be honest, having somebody that is possible of doing that, and then also benefit to this as well, which could be a scary one if you think about it this way, is that Elon does have a lot of access to tech and technology and spreading information. Or, like there's a side edge to this where a friend like that could help you get things,
Yeah.
which is where a lot of people I think are concerned with that friendship.
Right.
But if Elon is holding up the words in which he states, he's not trying to misinform. He's trying to possible. Or, could be good, could be bad. We will see.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, there has been some like crazy things going on X this year. Or I believe it was like either the last few weeks, but with he was taking check marks away, talking about the H-1B visas and whatnot. Wants immigration to be for the tech jobs and all that stuff, and it was backlash that end. But
So he's trying to make it easier for people to come in for work on a work
for the tech
basis?
jobs, because he was saying that a lot of I guess Americans aren't up to par when it comes to some of these tech jobs and whatnot. So we need you know uh,
There's visa restrictions. Usually you have to attempt to hire within the country before you bring somebody in for a job. Something makes it a lot harder.
yeah, and they're saying that it's kind of like a loophole type of situation because they get fast tracked or whatever else. But um, I don't know. And then that's the thing. Like, gotta remember, Elon is from South Africa. Like, yeah, he's American now. Brought a lot to the country. Does he have dual allegiance? I don't know. We'll see. But I feel like I don't know. I mean, it's pretty odd that he is taking away check marks that people who were speaking out about the visas on X and they got like demonetized and all this weird shit happening. So I'm like, okay,
I think we need more data on why the check mark stuff.
it was a lot of
A
people.
lot of people. I
It was
think
a lot
you'd
of
have to
people.
analyze it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, it could
I
not be.
I will say though, as somebody that knows that you pay for a check mark most of the time, when I am a person and I'm just a person that sees it, I just think you're another idiot that paid another subscription a month,
We're
like 20
subscription to
$30.
death right now.
Like, I just that's how I feel about it. They're like, do you want to be blah 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 verified? I'm like, no, I've been on this thing long enough that it's me.
Right. Yeah. Which is now, I mean, it's crazy that we're paying for checks mark. Like, okay, on
Yeah, it
X
used to
and
be a
Instagram.
thing.
It used to be like,
Instagram,
hey, you're cool
you
enough.
were cool.
Yeah, you're cool. And I had my check mark before the subscription on IG and all that stuff, but it was just like now people are paying for it, which is I get because like it weeds out a lot of like fake pages and scams.
I get it, but also that should just be given to you.
Could be.
Right? Like, why do I have to pay for this? Because when I had to change my name on Facebook, you forced me to show you that my name is my name, through an ID. So once you checked my ID, you checked me. That
Yeah.
should be the thing.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, in a sense, yeah, but I mean, of course, we know some as well.
oh, of course. I mean, these
So,
guys have to, figure out ways to monetize, and I
right.
understand. So, you do all of the all of the
Yeah.
things.
All the things you gotta do.
But
So
that's what
get it.
I think when I see a check mark. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you got extra $25 a month, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing. Like, we pay so many subscriptions now. We're just like, we're so like, all right. What's the next one? Like, we have Netflix and Spotify and now X and Instagram and then what else? Like
Apple and
Amazon.
Amazon.
Like, so when you really
Hulu.
like, is this better? Because like even like with cable and whatnot, like I know people who are
All right,
paying for.
when's the last time you actually turned on cable? Be real.
Oh, I don't even watch TV. I don't even own a TV.
That's what I'm saying. I turned it on the other day, because they have an air thing on
Yeah.
there, and I was flipping through, and I was just like, wow. And I felt like I was transported to the 90s, to be honest, because the channels were still showing the same stuff, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, if you want to go back in time,
Yeah.
turn on the TV.
I miss the 90s. It was a great time.
Just watch cable TV.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a TV, I don't even own a
You
TV.
don't have a smart TV?
Like
a screen?
I mean, not in like my room, but like in the living room.
So you still got it. You just don't turn it on.
Oh yeah, I just watch like YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, I don't even turn on
For fun, you should turn it
Yeah.
on
and just see
and
like,
see what's on.
hey, Family Matters.
Dude, it's wild.
Okay, so I'm gonna try it because
Peacock is where you get the Family
well, that's what I'm
Matters.
saying. Like with Peacock and everything else, you have Peacock, and then you have Paramount, like all these subscriptions. So it's like paying for cable all over again.
Oh, 100%. And then these companies really, I think what they're trying to do is like still make money off of these printed publications,
Yeah,
or I say printed, but they're movies, right? So they sell the rights to stream it for a certain amount of time to a company to get a big lump sum of some sort, and then they'll sell it to somebody else and they move it. Because if you ever see like where you get a notification, this one's leaving, where is it going?
yeah.
Going to one of these other guys. So it's just a way for them to continue to still make money off of stuff, which I get because, these actors don't have enough money. They need the residuals.
No, I don't know what they're gonna do now because now it's like you have AI coming in and everything else. I've seen, yo, you're out of a job. Like AI is gonna affect 85 million jobs just in America alone. So like, but I always tell people like, hey, the upside is 97 new million jobs are coming about if you reskill to learn these like technology. So when it comes to these actors, I don't feel like they're gonna go away just yet, obviously. And obviously there's a lot of shit going on in Hollywood anyways. So the diddler, he took shit up. But um now I see a whole new stream of entertainment coming about when it comes to like movies and AI and whatnot. Because I've used AI to like scripts and like all types of stuff, just messing around, just seeing like what it can do. It's only getting better. They have text to video now to where you can just type something in. Hey, put a puppy in a field playing with X, Y, and Z, and it just like boom, it shows up. I'm like, what does this mean for actors, producers, directors, set directors, like whatever? It's like, what is going to happen? Because it's gonna scale down a lot of the jobs that you would have, right? So I don't know. I think I think Hollywood's in trouble.
Hollywood's been in trouble.
Yeah, they're in
Well,
big trouble.
speaking of Hollywood being in trouble, did you see that I believe that they're not going to build here in Vegas?
Huh?
I just, if you could look it up, because I feel like I was looking up something the other day and I saw that the Warner Brothers Studios potentially is not actually, is it Warner Brothers that was building?
It was a few studios actually.
Yeah, it looked like that the plans might have been halted
Really
or changed,
interesting. I mean,
unless what they're scaling is different,
let's see.
which I thought that was interesting because I was looking at something and I thought Apple News.
So it says that Warner Brothers committed to 8.5 billion future plans for Vegas and Sony as well with Mark Wahlberg. But I'll have to look into that because if they are halting plans, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was halting or if they changed something.
Let's see.
Something about them potentially not doing the studio.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Warner Brothers Las Vegas Film Studio proposal loses its developer.
Okay, so it's losing developer. Okay.
One of two major Hollywood studios proposed for Las Vegas no longer has anyone to build it. Holy shit. So it looks like they don't have somebody to build it. It says the Berkshire development is no longer set to construct Warner Brothers Studios, Nevada, a 34-acre film complex that is near the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park at UNLV. Hmm. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Because when I was reading it, I was like, just not happening, or
yeah,
they
so
just have to start
yeah,
bidding process again.
that's gonna hold things up. So Warner Brothers still intends to build its studio if the state still extends the promised tax
So
credits.
that's the thing too. There's a lot of
Hey,
stuff
wait a
going
minute.
on.
The tax. Wait, remember that the tax
Yeah,
thing?
that's what I was saying. I'm like, there's a layer to this now that this happened because
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll be interested to see.
So they're actively seeking a new developer. So hey, all you developers out there,
Yeah.
get on the job. According to Warner Brothers' original proposal, the company was committed to 8.5 billion over 17 years. So so yeah, they still want that tax credit. They're like, hey, let's figure this out. let's keep that on the table though. We need those tax credits.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening.
Wonder why they
Interesting.
lost their developer.
Damn, I don't know why. Like, what is?
Well, I mean, Vegas is a place that really likes to make sure their hands are in everything, right? You know, there's only one person that puts those cones up.
Yeah.
There's only one company that puts the fences
Johnny
up.
2 times was like, hey, wait a minute here.
But that's reality, right? Like
Yeah.
of the state. So be interested to see. Maybe they wanted to put a different developer in it.
Yeah, somebody that is a cousin of somebody,
somebody.
that, you know.
I'm going to become a developer.
No.
I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you.
You got to know somebody to know somebody. That could be it though. I don't know.
And I can build the AI developer.
Oh, 3D printed.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. I've already seen like 3D printed houses. Like they threw a whole house in like days.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
So there's that, but interesting. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. So that'll be it for this episode. Make sure you guys go to mavericapproach.com. We'll leave all links below. Myself, Maverick, the bleach blonde herself.
Yeah.
She's not even blonde right now, but
know,
she
it's
will
okay.
be.
We'll imagine it.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Till next time.